time of 3 questions. Mr. Kong. In the past week, major thoroughfares in Hong Kong has been seriously blocked by rioters. Hong Kong traffic has come to a near paralysis. Various tertiary education institutions has been taken over by rioters and they've been turned into arsenals. As you can see, that on roads, you can see bricks dug up by rioters and lampposts cut off. Hong Kong has been left in ruins. I'm sure that you, like me, are saddened by what we see. How long do we tolerate and condone such acts of the rioters? The arrangement of today's press conference is I will first ask Mr. Cheuk, the regional commander of Kowloon West, to give you information about the operational arrangements of the Polytechnic University as well as some clarifications. And then I will give you an overall picture of the destructive act of rioters territory-wide as well as some operational figures. And then Mr. Leung of the FSD will talk to you about dangerous goods, and we will also talk to you about a case where a prisoner was snatched. Mr. Cheuk, at various locations a few days ago, we have seen near the Polytechnic University different violent scenes. What's most worrying is that rioters have set fire at various locations. I will show you a clip to show you the situation.
黑衣人開始攻勢，向警方投擲汽油彈，密集式投擲，路面火光紅紅。警方舉黑旗同橙旗之後，以催淚彈還擊。加洛薩聖瑪麗書院同埋歷史博物館對開煙霧彌漫。黑衣人密集式反攻。防暴警察向前推進，黑衣人組成傘陣，再發動攻勢，無間斷掟汽油彈。警方繼續以催淚彈對付。持續咗超過20分鐘先暫停。
I think Hong Kong people could safely use the Cross Harbour Tunnel to cross the harbour was last Wednesday. A few days ago, the toll plaza of Polytechnic University has been taken over by rioters. Hong Kong people could not use the tunnel anymore. Actually, earlier on, Monday last, the campus of Polytechnic University was taken over by rioters. You may remember that on that day, inside the campus, there has been widespread destruction, arson. For the subsequent couple of days, they practice hurling petrol bombs in groups or bow and arrow. Last Thursday, they have used arrows to shoot a police officer who is carrying out his duties at Austin Road. Rioters have turned the campus into an arsenal to produce petrol bombs en masse, and they have also used bombs that are made from compressed gas. Don't forget that there has been a group of rioters occupying the Polytechnic University for a week. Yesterday, matters came to a head. At about 10 a.m. yesterday, a group of people took the initiative to clear up road blockages outside the Polytechnic University. I can understand that people could no longer tolerate the act of rioters. However, when the rioters saw these people clearing the blockages, they used hard objects, petrol bombs, or even bows and arrows to attack those good citizens. There are police officers who have been shot by slingshots and arrows. One of the police officers was still in hospital. In the past week, the police have always just stayed outside the campus to set up their line of defense. However, rioters blatantly flouted the law, and they've been storming the line of defense of the police. Say, for example, on Saturday last week, rioters have left the campus and pushed towards the line of defense of the police near the History Museum at the south of Chatham Road. And yesterday, we could see that rioters indiscriminately attack citizens as well as police officers. In order to stop the situation from escalating, we have, starting from 11:30 a.m., via different channels, appealed to members of the public not to go near the area of the University. Starting from noon yesterday, every several hours, we will at least 4 times disseminate information via press release as well as social media to require everyone to leave the campus of Polytechnic University.
At around 9:30 in the evening, once again we appeal that those who remain at the PolyU campus to leave through the exit through the Y Tower at the Leishikyu Tower. Then the police have commenced the first round of arrest. So over the past week, these rioters can leave freely the PolyU campus, and there is supplies keep sending into the campus. As of last night, we have given them sufficient time and sufficient warning to the rioters to heed our appeal and leave. And some rioters insist of hold up inside the campus. In this situation, the police must act. In yesterday's operation, we have arrested a group of self-claiming voluntary first aiders, and some claiming to be reporters. They have been wearing the relevant attire. The police operation is not targeting specific individuals or their occupation. We are targeting the rioters staying inside the campus, and yesterday afternoon we stated clearly that anyone entering or staying inside the PolyU campus and assist the rioters may be seen as taking part in the riot. And we also received intelligence that some rioters have changed their clothing and wearing those reflective vests to pretend as reporters or first aiders in order to escape arrest and legal liability. Thus, we would first arrest anyone who we feel suspicious, then we'll thoroughly investigate them. Of the 51 persons who claim to be first aider or reporters, 12 of which self-claim as first aiders, yet they failed to produce any first aid or medical qualifications. And for the reporters, we found that some of them wearing a press vest unable to produce any press credentials. After verifying their identity, we found they were professional journalists, which we released later. Clarifications: we have never proactively break into or enter the PolyU campus. A large host of rioters since the early hours have been gathering on Changwon Road and hurling multiple petrol bombs towards the police cordon line. The police must conduct dispersal and arrest operations. While our colleagues were chasing the rioters, some individual officers, while in pursuit, may have entered the area close to the PolyU entrances, and upon finishing the arrest, they have retreated because they've been subject to endless attacks. So let me clarify that there are some rumors claiming that we're trying to break into the PolyU. Such narrative is incorrect. And there are also rumors claiming that while the police have been appealing those inside the PolyU campus to leave the PolyU through the Y core exit, but at the same time, we were firing tear gas towards the Y exit and stopping them to leave. In fact, those smoke were caused by the burning of debris near the Y exit in order to block it so that those who wanted to leave wasn't able to. Another accusation claimed that this morning the police have used multiple tear gas to the PolyU campus and not allowing those inside the campus to leave. And since 8 o'clock this morning, the large group of masked rioters inside the campus have suddenly leave the PolyU campus and attempt to charge the police cordon line. And we found quite a number of them holding petrol bombs. After not heeding our warnings, the police used the minimum necessary force to disperse them, including using tear gas. And after hurling the petrol bombs, these rioters had returned to inside the campus. Their actions have actually made those who want to leave peacefully unable to do so. Third clarification, and there were rumors floating online that the police have using trains to transport the arrested. I would like to clarify it didn't happen. And last night, when the north and south reach of PolyU was set on fire, the smoke have entered the Hong Kong station and evacuation need to be conducted. And police is conducting the situation as very tense. And for the PolyU area, it's still very high risk. I appeal those who are still remaining in PolyU to stop using violence. Please come out and surrender. And also appeal those who support the use of violence and to stop using violence and stop supporting the use of violence. At this stage, in Simsatri in Jordan, there's still a large scale public gathering taking place. I appeal them to leave right away in a peaceful manner. The police do it utmost to have a peaceful and orderly end to all public events. I appeal to everyone to stop using violence and everyone to stop supporting violence. And now I'll hand over to Mr. Kwok. And over the past week, the rioters have erected roadblocks across the territory. They dug up bricks and cut up lampposts as roadblocks. And some of the rioters have been hurling objects and petrol bombs from the Polo Highway from the number 2 bridge of the CHK. Viciously paralyzed the main thoroughfare of new territories. And some rioters on the Poly footbridge have vandalized and obstruct the Cross Harbor Tunnel facilities. The acts of the rioters have way departed the so-called justice. They only vandalize for the sake of it. In order to meet their own political aspirations, they have taken hostage of the welfare of this all Hong Kong people, which is despicable and extremely selfish. In the past week, we saw some citizens can no longer tolerate these riotous acts and have self-initiated the clearance of road barricades across the territory, hope to do their bit to restore order for their home and community. Unfortunately, the rioters have spun out of control and they will arbitrarily attack normal citizens, including hurling petrol bombs from heights and using vigilante justice on the streets. These acts are cold-blooded and despicable, and we can see the clips we're showing with you.
佢哋身後嘅路障。一個男人同黑衣人發生口角。其他市民隨即加入指罵黑衣人。爭執期間，有人投擲汽油彈。喺網上嘅片段見到汽油彈疑似喺天橋掟落嚟。
但理大對出一段漆咸道南，亦都有人出嚟清路障。一班黑衣人由暢運道出嚟，要求對方離開。部分人拎住磚頭，有人衝前向清路障嘅人嘅方向掟磚。試圖襲擊其中一個人。清路障嘅人加入，一度拉扯同打掟磚嘅黑衣人。幾個黑衣人亦都介入，救走黑衣人。過程入面，兩個清路障嘅人亦都受傷。
作為一個土生土長嘅香港人
As someone born and bred in Hong Kong, it hurts me to see that our lives have been completely disrupted. The acts of the rioters has completely turned Hong Kong upside down. Hong Kong people have to worry about the roadblocks set up by rioters. They are also worried that they might be attacked by rioters anytime. Hundreds of traffic lights have been damaged. Various public transportation facilities has been damaged, and MTR stations have also been vandalized. It's become very difficult for Hong Kong people to go to places. Who is destroying Hong Kong people's lives. There are patients who can't go to attend follow-up appointments at hospitals because of road blockages by rioters. Food for patients and samples of patients cannot be properly transported to where they're supposed to be. We also see that rioters' weapons have evolved from bricks and miscellaneous items to lethal weapons, say, for example, LPG canisters strapped with nails, thousands of petrol bombs, flares, arrows, and corrosive fluid. One of our police officers have been shot at the calf. The arrow embedded into his calf for about 6 to 7 centimeters. You can imagine if that same arrow pierced into the body of a police officer, it would hurt his internal organs. The police officer who was hurt was not carrying out riot duties. He was not wearing riot gear. He was only a media liaison officer standing amongst reporters. If it wasn't him who was shot, it would have been a reporter. This basically is attempted murder, which is very serious. There are also armored vehicles that have caught fire. There are reporters that have been hurt by petrol bombs and other things. You think that this is the liberty as claimed by rioters? Let's watch these clips.
火勢猛烈，濃煙升上半空，多次傳出爆炸聲。起火範圍幾乎佔咗半條橋，不斷有火舌跌到橋下。近9點，警方嘅武裝甲車喺紅隧對出嘅行人天橋向前推進，期間黑衣人不斷係掟汽油彈。
到目前為止
So far, 3 universities, namely Chinese University, City University, and Polytechnic University, have made reports to us saying that rioters have possessed a large amount of petrol bombs. They also report that rioters have stolen a large amount of flammable items from the laboratories. We attach importance to these cases. We will seriously carry investigations and protect the safety of Hong Kong people. I would like to also give you information about 2 cases in which police officers have opened fire. First, in the evening of the 17th, rioters used a vehicle to attempt to attack a police officer. It was about 10 p.m. Police have set up cordon line on Austin Road. When we were pushing towards Chatham Road South, a rioter driving a white private car deliberately rammed towards a police officer from behind. The officer at the scene spotted that there was a car going towards them, and they felt that their lives were at risk. As a result, they have fired 1 round at this private car. The car immediately turned around and fled. We seriously condemn such cold-blooded acts that is similar to terrorist attack. The other case happens in the small hours of today. At the junction of Nathan Road and Jordan Road, a 20-year-old Chinese woman was arrested for unlawful assembly. This arrestee suffered an injury on the head. The police made arrangements for an ambulance to take her away. 2 police officers were responsible for escorting her. The ambulance was stuck in traffic at the junction of the Jordan Road and Ferry Street. Ambulancemen had to go to the location of the arrestee, and it was about 3 a.m. A large amount of rioters stormed the ambulance, tried to snatch the arrestee away. And the police officer was trapped inside the ambulance, and the ambulance was attacked, so he fired 3 rounds. This is very serious. This is the case of assisting criminal. The maximum penalty is 10 years imprisonment. Let me give you some information about arrest figures. We have so far arrested 4,491 people. 3,395 of them are men. 1,096 of them are women, aged between 11 and 83. Offences involved are rioting, possession of offensive weapon, arson, assaulting police officers, etc. In the last weekend, in our operation, we have arrested altogether 154 people, including 103 men, 51 women aged between 13 and 54. Offences involved are mainly unlawful assembly, rioting, and arson. In relation of use of ammunition, as at the small hours of today, in the operation over the weekend, we have used the following. On the 15th of November, Friday, 88 rounds of CS grenade, 19 rounds of rubber bullets. We haven't used any super sock. We have used 4 rounds of 40mm launcher. Saturday on the 16th, we have used 54 rounds of CS grenade, 33 rounds of rubber round. We have not used any super sock. We have used 4 rounds of 40mm launcher. On the 17th of November, that is yesterday, we're still counting the number of the amount of ammunition being used. As at the small hours this morning, we have recorded 7 police officers being injured during the operation. Since June, 454 police officers were injured whilst carrying out operation. Now I'll hand over to Mr. Leung of the Fire Services Department to talk to you about dangerous items as well as the snatching of a prisoner.
And over the past few days, there were a lot of protests and violent incidents across the territory. Most of the protesters using bricks and debris to obstruct the major thoroughfares, and even poured concrete on the road to obstruct traffic. And the fire engine and the ambulance not able to dispatch the locations to conduct fire rescue and emergency paramedic services. And for the TST fire engine station and TST first aid station and the Kowloon City first aid station. And for the 15th to 17th, 3 days, in Hong Kong there are 38 fire calls not able to meet the FST performance pledge, which is arriving at the scene within 6 minutes. And for urgent paramedic services, in the 3 days in Hong Kong, there are 530 calls not able to meet the performance target, that is arrival within the 12 minutes. The protesters have been vandalizing MTR stations, shops, and on the streets, and hurling petrol bombs at police officers as well, would lead to severe destruction. On Friday, and for fire-related protests, and there are 47 of those, and for urgent medical services, there are 14. And on Saturday, and there are 24 fire call and 8 for urgent paramedic services. And yesterday, the number of fire 56 and urgent paramedic services 16. These are related to the protests and public gatherings. And for just past Sunday, and on the bridge connecting Polytechnic to the Hong Kong station, that have been set on fire, which multiple explosions were seen, and the protesters have also inside and outside the Polytechnic campus been setting fire in lots of locations and hurling large amount of petrol bombs towards the police, and also resort to projectiles to hurl these petrol bombs. In online clips, we can see that some of the protesters have injured themselves while trying to hurling petrol bombs. I urge the protesters to stop this extremely dangerous acts, and the injured persons should seek medical attention as soon as possible. And there were press reports that some inside uni campus there were chemicals being stolen. The FSD reiterate, and since different chemicals carry their own risky characteristics, including inflammable, corrosive, or toxic, inappropriate handling of the chemicals will pose a huge risk for themselves and those surround them. So I strongly urge the protesters must care for the safety of everyone. They should not refrain from using dangerous chemicals. And my appeal that if anyone get exposed to these chemicals, they should remove the clothing and, where possible, douse it with large amount of water. And if you smell some noxious smell indoors, you should leave the room, and if you smell this outdoors, you should leave the scene as soon as possible and to seek assistance if needed. And now we'd like to talk about at the intersection of Canton Road and Jordan Road. There's an injured being forcibly removed. And for at 2:43 a.m. and for an ambulance belonging to the Mong Kong fire station, we dispatched it to the intersection of Jordan Road and Nathan Road to deal with the urgent case of head injury. When the ambulance arrived at around 3 of that intersection, since there were roadblocks ahead, the paramedics would need to walk on foot to the scene. When they arrived, the paramedics found a female injured person, which then they to do some bandaging on her. Then the paramedics have put it on a stretcher, and with the escort of police officers back to the ambulance. And in the process, there were a large group of persons gathered and tailing the paramedics and the police. When they were about 15 meters behind the ambulance, the crowd behind start heckling at police officers. At around 3:45 a.m., 3 paramedics, together with 2 policemen and the injured lady, have arrived at the tailed ambulance. To avoid confrontation, the officer in charge of the ambulance allowed the 2 police officers to board it inside the ambulance first. When the police enter the ambulance, then the crowd start attacking the officers inside the ambulance. They hurl bricks, objects inside the ambulance, and other protesters have been pushing the ambulance on both sides and prevent the paramedics from taking the injured inside the ambulance. We attempt to bring the injured onto a safe place, and yet we were stopped by the crowd and actually snatched the injured away from the stretcher. And the officer in charge attempted to close the ambulance door, and yet they were stopped by the crowd. The 2 paramedics returned to the stretcher that the injured lady was gone. The crowd would continue to push the ambulance on both sides. Then, after hearing a gunshot, the crowd near the ambulance have dispersed it. Fortunately, the 3 paramedics were not injured. However, when we searched for the injured lady, we were not successful. Then the ambulance have confirmed to suffer severe damage. The FST stressed it that all the injured, regardless of their background, the FC colleague would treat them equally in providing the most appropriate emergency care. If the protester forcibly removed the injured person, they would aggravate the injury and may even threaten that person's life. I hope that all protesters to stop this act, which might cause another layer of injury. The FC will utilize all resources to stay at the forefront in serving the public. I hope that the public should stay in safe locations and should not take part in illegal protests or violent activities, and should not support the road blockage or arson in any manner. Thank you. And now I will sum up. And for the general strike in the past week, innocent civilians couldn't get to work and they were forced to go on strike. The school forced to suspend their classes and the student couldn't attend the classes. Shops were vandalized and they were closed for business. The rioters have once again hijacked all Hong Kong people and sacrificing the citizens' right to enjoy their normal life. It is the rioters using the objects to set up barricades to paralyze the major thoroughfares. It's the rioters that were manufacturing petrol bombs and lethal weapons inside universities. It is the rioters that been burning cars inside the campus, and they were the rioters that were shooting people with arrows from height or hurling petrol bombs. Shouldn't that qualify as rioters' acts? And back in June, when the rioters been hurling bricks, we decry them as violent. Then they've been shooting metal beasts, and we decry them as violent. When they're using corrosive liquid, then we cry them as violent. Then they've been deploying petrol bombs. Initially, they tossed them to the ground, then were used to burn up shops and claimed as renovation, quote unquote. And back then, we've been condemning their violence.
Yesterday, they used bow and arrow to shoot police officers. How much longer do we tolerate them to use violence, and to what level? Where is the rule of law that we take pride in? In addition, we also notice that on the internet there are others who incite other people to participate in riots. There are also some claims on the internet saying that they would engage in terrorist attacks, including the use of vehicles to attack police officers, the use of petrol bombs to attack discipline services quarters. We have to warn rioters that the internet is not outside the law. We will seriously follow up on these illegal acts. In such difficult times, the police will do our best to keep law and order in Hong Kong. We also need your help to keep law and order here. We hope that the general public will work with us and will not condone, connive any of these romanticized acts of violence. We hope that Hong Kong will see peace and order again. I will quickly go over in English what I've said.
And Hong Kong was struck by widespread rioting as extreme violence descended on university campus and residential areas. Rioters also set fire to major transport routes and harbour crossings, leaving part of the city gridlocked for days. Most alarming, deadly weapons were used in the Polytechnic University, which has become a weapon factory, as well as a refuge for extremely violent rioters. There are several potentially fatal attacks targeting the police. First, yesterday morning, one of our Force Media Liaison Cadre members was struck by an arrow outside Polytechnic University in Hong Kong. Without a doubt, this is a murderous act. There are many reporters in the same area. The arrow could have killed our officer or anyone in the surrounding. We express the strongest condemnation against this indiscriminate violence. Second, several rioters launched a vehicle ramming attack on our officer at around 10 p.m. yesterday. At that time, our officers were advancing through Chatham Road South, where rioters tried to ram a private car into them. To protect themselves from death or serious injury, one of the officers fired a live round at the car. It then fled towards Tsim Sha Tsui East. Such terrorist attack is again calculated to kill our officers. Although no one was injured in the incident, the development so violence has reached a critical level. Rioters have so intent to murder our officer at all costs. Third, in the lead up to another open fire incident, one 20-year-old Chinese female was arrested for taking part in a riot in Jordan and was taken onto an ambulance for treatment under police escort. The rioters then surrounded and attacked the ambulance, and worst of all, helped the arrested female escape police custody. Afterward, rioters hurled stone bricks into the police officers struggling on the ambulance. In response to the imminent life threat, one officer fired 3 live rounds. No one was injured. We must emphasize assisting offender is a very serious offense, liable to 10 years imprisonment. A university is supposed to be a breeding ground for young talent, but it's unfortunately become a battlefield for criminals and rioters. The PolyU campus in Hong Kong has turned into a weapon factory, where an arsenal of weapons were made and stored. Offensive weapons like arrows, petrol bombs, metal balls, and bricks were launched from makeshift catapults mounted on the roof of the campus. One large gas canister, which looked like a self-made bomb, was also seen inside the campus. We also received a report from PolyU that several toxic and dangerous chemicals had been stolen from the laboratory. Among the stolen chemicals were highly volatile explosives. We must warn that the university campus has become a politics where danger is far beyond what we can estimate. For the deployment in PolyU, it's necessary and justified for police officers to take action in order to contain the violence and restore public order. As a whole, over the past week, our officers were only deployed in the periphery of university campus and exercised great restraint. We repeatedly appealed to rioters inside the PolyU to leave. However, all our warnings were ignored. Our message was loud and clear. The violence has escalated to rioting. Anyone who stays behind may be liable to taking part in riot. We also have intelligence. Certain rioters disguised as first aiders or medical officers, but were indeed rioting. There's no way for us to verify their identity, so it's justified for our officer to make arrests. Here we must also clarify, we never stormed the PolyU campus. In contrast, those master mob gathered on Cheung Wan Road Beach and hurled petrol bomb at our police officers. These necessitate police dispersal and arrest operations. While individual officers have made arrests near the entrance of the campus, they retreat to their chat line outside the campus afterward. We must stress that we have always been looking for a peaceful resolution to the violent incidents. As long as these masked rioters give up their weapon, drop their weapon, follow police instruction, and shoulder their legal responsibility, the police have no reason to use force. In terms of arrest, police arrested in total 154 people, consisting of 103 male and 51 female, aged between 13 and 54 over the weekend. The offense include unlawful assembly, taking part in a riot, possession of offensive weapons, burglary, etc. In conclusion, Hong Kong has been crippled by violence and public fear for almost half a year now. It's saddening to see our society being torn apart. Hong Kong's rule of law has been pushed to the brink of total collapse as those masked rioters relentlessly escalate their violence under the false hope that they can get away with it. We must make this very clear. Nowhere in Hong Kong is a lawless land. If someone breaks the law, regardless of where you hide, the police are duty-bound to bring offenders to justice. No excuse, no political demand can spare anyone from legal liability. Please join us to put an end to violence before it is too late.
好，問題陣間 TVB 唔該。
TVB, I have a question.